This sound is created by using multiple oscillators to layer up sawtooth waves. However, instead of just overlaying one sawtooth wave onto another, what we do is we take one sawtooth wave and then we make a detuned copy of it and overlay that slightly so you get a phasing effect. You can then do that as many times as you have oscillators in your synthesizer. So you can layer up additional sawtooth waves to create very complex kind of sounds. So we'll go back to an initialized patch. So we have one sawtooth wave. The Korg Minilogue allows you to layer up to 8 sawtooth waves because it has 2 oscillators per voice and 4 voices, and these 4 voices can be joined in unison mode where only one note is played but all 8 oscillators are layered up. So this allows us to create a very rich Supersaw sound. Now if we set VCO2, the second oscillator, to a sawtooth wave also, and then we increase the volume of VCO2, we can turn this up to maximum, or we can turn it up to any point near maximum to get a similar effect. So this is how 2 sawtooth waves sound. Okay, so those 2 sawtooth waves are actually slightly detuned. It might be just because we're using an analog synthesizer and the oscillators aren't quite synced. I haven't manually detuned them yet, but I will do now. So pitch 1 I'm going to center, so that is not detuned. Pitch 2 I'm going to take down to about minus 20%, so it sounds like this. If I bring that back up, you'll see how it sounds as they come back in alignment. So at this point the 2 oscillators are almost exactly aligned. There's a slight phase shift, but the tuning of each is the same, so they're not moving, they're just slightly out of phase. Now the more pitch detune we add, then the more they're going to move around like this. So if we take it all the way down, it's tuned down an entire octave. This VCO is playing this note, and then if we hear VCO2, it's playing an octave lower. But let's turn them both up again. We just want the detuning to be slight to have that layering effect. At the moment I'm tuning it down, but you could tune it up. The effect is virtually the same. The next step is to use as many of the oscillators as you have available. If you only have 2 oscillators, that's fine, and there's your sound. So we're kind of there already, but we can bring in additional oscillators with the Minilogue. So I'm going to switch from polyphonic mode to unison mode. Already that sounds a little bit thicker than it did in poly mode. This is unison mode. This is poly mode. Now we can go a step further and we can use the voice depth mode to detune all of the 8 oscillators a little bit further still. So let's hear the effect of that. And there we are, that's our basic detuned sawtooth wave. We might want to put a little bit of extra release time on there so the note doesn't stop so quickly. I'll show you quickly how we could do the same thing on the microbrute. The microbrute doesn't have as many sawtooth oscillators available as the Monologue, but it does have a basic sawtooth oscillator and an ultra saw oscillator, which can create detuned versions of the sawtooth wave. So if we just play a basic sawtooth wave, it sounds like this. That's going through a little delay on the mixer. So what we can do is to add the ultra saw oscillator. So that's kind of layering it up a little bit, but what we really need to do is to vary the pitch of the main sawtooth wave. We can do that on the microbrute using the low frequency oscillator, which will send a message to the sawtooth oscillator to say rise and fall in pitch. The way we need to do that is to use the modulation matrix, which is a little introduction to modular synthesis. So we can take this cable and we can go from the LFO, the low frequency oscillator output, into the sawtooth oscillator input. Now, when we play a note, the LFO will affect the pitch of the sawtooth wave. So the amount will affect how much the wave drifts in and out of its original pitch, and the rate is how fast. If we turn the amount up high, you'll hear this effect. If we turn the rate down, then you'll hear it moving more slowly. So we're just about there already with the microbrute ultra saw sound. And there's your ultra saw sound.